too bad. I think the little drafty over here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I like this one.
Alco.
It's like a
Well, it says 64.
Good morning, Walter. How are you?
I,
Whoever you are, wherever you come from, whatever age, ability, history, gender, or sexual orientation, you are welcome to bring your full self here. I'm not Dan Silver. Dan is right there. You might notice his name on the order of worship, but I'm filling in today. I'm Reverend Anya Samler-Michael, she, her, hers. Grounded in faith, we come together to nurture the soul, inspire hope, and bring into being a more just and loving world. Today's service is non-traditional, to say the least. We will be asking you, what if you only had 30 days to love? Think about that. What if you only had 30 days to love? How would you spend those 30 days? And the crew of people who will be asking you this question come from all over the country. We will have the president of the Unitarian Universalist Association joining us from Boston, Massachusetts, Reverend Susan Frederick Gray. We will have the Reverend J.Q. Henry, an ordained Church of God minister from Atlanta, and we will have the Reverend Ali K.C. Bell, our last intern minister, who's now serving as a chaplain in Atlanta, and many, many more. How is it that we can gather all of these greats in one room? Part of our service today is a live stream of the Side with Love worship from our Unitarian Universalist Association. It was co-created by Reverend Ali and myself. Before we share, we will gather in a heart-focused way here, attending to our congregation's own remembrances. And then hold onto your seats as we wing our way around the nation. And for those who are present here in the sanctuary, at the conclusion of our service, we will pause to reflect with one another, joining in this space of community, asking again, what if we only had 30 days to love? And those joining virtually, we will invite you to share your reflections into the chat, and I'll be here on the chancel with my computer, connecting us, virtual and in person, by sharing what others in the chat are reflecting on, so we can hear where one another is. This is a complex technological service. Let's start out with gratitude to our tech team up there. Debbie Ann, Wallace, Connor, thank you so much. And to Marcus, who was our tech guru this morning, figuring out all the things that others couldn't. So, if this wasn't a full enough Sunday, while we are gathering for worship, our children and youth are also engaging in a children and youth circle in the Pearls Room, both virtually and in person, connecting with children and youth from the Community Church of New York. They're there with their Director of Religious Education, Jill Novinsky, and our Director of Religious Education, Judith Hogan. Lots of connections are being made today. How better to celebrate love than by making connections? Finally, please see your This Week at UUCM bulletin for other important information. So we begin with remembrances today. Called to find depth in our days and discover reverence in this hour, we seek a gentle meditation, a focused reflection, an ardent prayer, each as we are called, and yet all together. And we enter into this space by hearing the lamentations, the requests, and the remembrances of our community. Let us hear one another, to heal one another. The first remembrance is also our chalice lighting. This is a remembrance of all those Unitarian Universalists all over the nation that are sharing worship at this hour with us and beyond. May this chalice today, as we share our chalice lighting words, call us into communion with those who are not seated next to us, but are with us in faith. And I welcome you to share those words aloud as you know. Let us open our senses to take in the beauty. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. Let us open our hearts to love one another. And Dan, can I call you into action? Will you come forward and light the remembrance candles for us as I share? David Bronstein and Nikki Keene light a candle of remembrance for Ginger Bronstein, who died on February 17th at the age of 86 after a long battle with autoimmune disease and dementia. She passed away at home. She was comfortable and supported by her loving family. And David Bronstein and Nikki Keene also light a candle of healing for Irving Bronstein, David's father, who is still recovering from a bout of sepsis and now is grieving the loss of his beloved wife of 66 years. We light this next candle for all those who come here today to worship with a grieving heart, laying to rest dear ones in their lives. There are many this weekend in our congregation and beyond. Let us open our hearts to hold all those who grieve. And we light this candle in solemn recognition of Remembrance Day. On February 19th, in 1942, President Franklin Roosevelt gave the U.S. Army the authority to remove civilians from the military zones established in Washington, Oregon, and California during World War II. This led to the forced removal and incarceration of some 120,000 Americans of Japanese ancestry for simply having the face of the enemy. And we light this next candle in honor of Wilhelmina Melissa Helen Mintz, dedicated right here in the sanctuary yesterday. Granddaughter of Stephen Mintz, daughter of Jessica and Ben Mintz. When we named her, we dipped a yellow rose in water and touched her on the head. And she looked up at the rose in awe and wonder, and then tried to eat it. Blessings, dear child. And we light this final candle for the joys and the sorrows that are deeply felt, but have not been spoken aloud. May we hold this silence as this silence holds us. Blessings, Dear child,
Welcome, dear
Blessings,
ones, to this Side with
children.
Love Sunday.
Blessings,
This worship service is
dear
the
children
capstone to
of the
this year's
holy.
30 Days of Love.
we're not quite ready for the video yet. Thank you. Yes. May our listening inspire acts of love. And now we side with love with our video.
Welcome, dear ones, to this Side with Love Sunday. This worship service is the capstone to this year's 30 Days of Love, which is our annual opportunity to collectively nurture our spirits, deepen our understanding, and side with love by living out our values as we work together for collective liberation. As we head into 2022, I know your hearts are tired. My heart is tired. Here we are 2 years into this global pandemic that has taken so many lives and caused so much isolation and hardship for all of us, but especially for those who were already impacted by systemic inequity and oppression. Our elected officials continue to fail to pass national legislation to ensure voting rights, a strong social safety net for the most vulnerable, and support for struggling communities, businesses, and families. Culture wars and disinformation over everything from vaccines to abortion to critical race theory are everywhere. Too often it feels overwhelming and impossible. And yet when my heart feels heavy, I pause and I think about all of you, my Unitarian Universalist siblings around the world who continue to show up every day in 1,000 ways to manifest love in the world. When congregations are providing sanctuary for immigrants or sheltering refugees, I am hopeful. When networks of UUs partner with people in Texas to access abortion care, I feel filled with hope. And when hundreds of volunteers bring their skills to organize together through our Side with Love squads and organizing school cohorts, I am filled with hope. When UUs put their bodies on the line in direct action with water protectors, or Black Lives Matter, or the Poor People's Campaign, I am filled with hope. Because I feel our power and I know that hope grows from being in the struggle and from being in the work of love and justice. So however you come to the work of being human right now, exhausted, frustrated, angry, generous, inspired, on fire, focused, despondent, struggling, passionate, however you come to the work of being human right now, as you are willing, as you are able, I invite you to bring your spirit, to open your heart and to lean into the callings of love and justice, and lean into the power and strength of your wider faith community, of all of us as Unitarian Universalists. You are welcome here in Unitarian Universalism. You are precious. Your work and your life and your heart and your shared faith has the power to heal and connect and sustain us, even in the midst when we are all collectively experiencing so much exhaustion in this time. In that spirit, in the spirit of our collective strength and power, I invite you into this time of worship. I invite you into this time to slow down, to remember that we are all in this together, that this is no time to go it alone. To slow down and remind ourselves of the vision of a world made whole, in which all people are free and thriving. May this worship be a blessing to your spirit, just as you are a blessing to this world. Come, let us worship together.
Grace and peace to you. What a joy and an honor it is to have this opportunity to share with each of you on this sturdy day of love service. I am so blessed to share with you in song, and as we sing these particular songs and melodies, we reminisce on the matriarchs and patriarchs who really embodied the spirits of these spirituals. Spirituals hymned from what we know as the blues. The blues were simply songs about life and some of the things that various individuals would have to endure as they continued to live through life's journey. Journey with me from 1619 when the first slave ship landed in Jamestown, Virginia. There, that slave ship boat being called Jesus. There, individuals who were the strongest of the strongest, bound knee, foot, ankle, hand together as they traveled through the Middle Passage to an unknown land. But thanks be to the Almighty that sustained them. And from their experiences there from Virginia as they build the South and as they continue to make progress, they were called to do certain things, those things that allowed for them to have to work from can't see in the morning until can't see at night and laboring tirelessly. But it was the songs and the music that was birthed through those experiences that gave to them hope, that gave to them love. That same music was then translated through the 1960s, the 1619s and the 1700s and 18th century down to the 19th century, even when we get to the Jim Crow South. As we sing these songs, it is important that we understand the content and context of them. This first song is Hush, Listen, Somebody's Calling My Name. Could that somebody be justice? Could that somebody be love, freedom? Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Join with me in hymn number 1040, singing the journey. Hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, listen, somebody's calling my name. Hush, listen, somebody's calling my name. Hush, listen, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Well, it sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Well, it sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. It sounds like freedom. Well, somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Well, it sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Well, it sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. It sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Well, and soon one morning, death come creeping in my room. Oh, soon one morning, death come a creeping in my room. Soon one morning, death come a creeping in my room. Oh my Lord, shall I do? Well, now I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. Oh, I'm so glad trouble don't last always. I'm so glad that trouble don't last always. Oh my Lord, what shall I do? Yes.
Before we touch the match, before the chalice is lit, we remember the potential for the flame is always there. Even when the wick is stiff, the wax smooth and solid, the candle remembers what it is to burn. Because once you have been on fire, you will always remember how you were on fire once. And some part of you will always know all it would take is one spark for the flame to leap and dance again, for you to burn clear and bright in the soft velvet darkness. The potential for more love, too, is always there. Even when the losses are too great to bear, the weariness, bone deep and stretching forward and backward through time and the generations, the heart remembers what it is to love. Because once you have been in love with a person, a patch of earth, a vision of freedom for your children's children, you will always remember how you were loved, how you were love once. And all it would take is one connection, one act of grace or selfless courage for you to be loved back into being, clear and bright, abundantly, fiercely, lovingly alive.
What if I only had 30 days to love? 30 days to love this life, these people, this earth.
What if I only had 30 days for praise, for admiration, for reverence? 30 days to love my God.
What if I only had 30 days for lament, for hopelessness, for loss? 30 days to be with the absence that proclaims the space for love.
I would love like an action. I would love with my full, courageous body.
I would love without apology. I would love with my full, courageous spirit.
I would love like the holy. I would love with my full, courageous presence.
Without apology.
Like an action.
Like the holy.
And it would hurt, and it wouldn't be easy. You know this. It couldn't be easy.
And it would be confusing, like a pandemic is confusing, because it would wipe away everything I had come to expect.
And the scarcity. The scarcity of time and space for love would make my heart pound with excitement and disquiet. But for those 30 days, love would be unfolding.
Without apology.
Like an action.
Like the holy.
Because
What else does life demand but love? It is the abundance that knows no ending. It is what we find when just moments before, we had found nothing.
So give us 30 days to love, and you will know our abundance, our unfolding.
I would like to invite you all into the space of focus, calm, meditation, contemplation, and what many others call a deep ask of prayer. Great Spirit of life, God of so many names and no name at all, we come to this time together to connect more deeply with one another through time, space, and video screen. Great Keeper of time, these times are tough. We are all pressed with the tiring struggle of keeping ourselves and our loved ones safe from a global pandemic. Many of us are also struggling with financial, housing, and food stability. So many of our interpersonal relationships seem past the point of repair in these times. All of these things leave so many of us in emotional and spiritual tatters, longing for a day where the God of our ancestors would swoop down and fix it. Great Maker of love, I have learned in life that this is usually not how you work. I need this time together to remind me that in fact, we are all the vessels of holy will. We are a part of a faith tradition that values our collective might. We know that it is through our inactions that we often uplift each other into salvation, and equally, we recognize that it is through our inactions that we often condemn ourselves and others to various forms of hell. But right now, in this moment of deep connection to one another, though we are miles apart, may we be reminded that our tradition is one that sees each of us as a water droplet that has become an ocean. And while it is very hard for me to imagine that a drop of water matters to the ocean, we believe that every individual droplet can cause ripples that eventually break onto shore. O Waymaker, together let our droplets create tidal waves. I pray for humility to listen to the droplets of others and heed their lived experience, and I pray equally for my lived experience to be heard. I pray that we don't allow exhaustion to be an excuse for perpetuating harm. I pray that we become the answers we so desperately seek, and that we find a way to embody the best ideals from our religious heritage, ideals that sometimes we have historically mocked. Great Mender of hearts, please connect me to all who are, who have been, and who will be. Create in me a clear heart, capable of love beyond measure, that like the water droplet begins with me, but whose ripples traverse space and time, amassing with other ripples from other droplets to bring about healing of this one precious and imperfect world. All of these asks we lay here at this collective altar of humanity. And in the name of all that is holy, I ask that we say, Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.
As we continue to celebrate and remember and to recall, although we celebrate a celebrated journey of individuals who endured many trials and tribulations, it is proper and befitting that we pause and reflect on those who were separated from their families, their mothers, their fathers, their kindred. Many of them to never see them ever again in life. And through the heartbreak and disappointment of that separation, the songs that spoke to their spirit, that really embodied how they felt in that moment, were recorded. And we lift them today in memory of those individuals, those souls, those unsung heroes. Would you reflect with me on a familiar song? Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Page 97, singing the living tradition. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. Sometimes I feel like I have no friend. A long way from home, a long way from home, alone. They took my baby from me. Lord, they took my baby from me. Lord, they took my baby from me. A long way from home. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home. Well, a long way from As we prepare to go to the sermon, we'd like to invite you to sing this wonderful hymn of the church, "There is More Love Somewhere." Indeed, we all have our responsibility to find that, to search that, to embrace it. So let us join together and sing this wonderful song found on page 95 in the Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. There is more love somewhere. I want to invite you and your homes, your families, to join us. Our families here, we're going to sing together. Join us today as we sing, "There is More Love Somewhere."
Don't stop till you find it. There is more love somewhere. I'm going to keep on until I find it. There is more love somewhere. The meaning, some would argue, is almost the same. Elder Henry sang, "Don't stop until you find it." It's the way I learned the song in my youth, in the churches that I attended. I'm going to keep on until I find it. That's the way I learned the song at Unitarian Universalist congregations. The message, though, is very clear. There is more love somewhere. We must continue on until we find that love, because there is more love somewhere. It is not here, it is somewhere, and we must keep on. We must not give up, We must not give in. We must continue until we find it. It kind of reminds me of this tweet I saw by Joel Leon. He writes, "I never saw my mother walk on water, but I saw her wait for the bus in the snow to pay the rent." We define holy differently. And as a hospital chaplain resident, I have lots of time to think about what is holy and what is love. One of my favorite daily duties is joining my voice, thoughts, prayers, and intentions with those of my chaplain colleagues all over the world as we read the prayer requests that have accumulated in the prayer boxes stationed around the hospital from the night before. Some of these requests come from the same people, and we find ourselves transported to them in our daily conversation of lament and thanksgiving, while others are often scribbled and shoved into the box in hopes that something or someone can slow it down or make it stop. Something can shield them from impending doom, as if they are hoping that we chaplains have been equipped with a sort of prayer shield or maybe a love shield that can shield them and theirs from it. And as I make my rounds, I hear people searching for the holy in their hospital rooms when they plead for a cure for what afflicts them. And sometimes I hear people utter a prayer for the holy, for intervention, for help, right before they receive the news of a loved one's death. I see people experience a heaping portion of the holy as they come through horrendous accidents, astonished when they find that they are only a little worse for the wear. And of course, in those moments, everyone seems pretty clear that there's some type of something holy or big that just happened. And it is easy to see that something is holy when it defies what we think of as possible. However, love is holy. It is a holy act that occurs every day. It happens in ordinary encounters between strangers, between colleagues, between families and friends, and not just the romantic love of fairy tales, though there is something special and beautiful and holy in every love and every ever after. But I'm talking about the love that informs, that acts, that empowers, that invites. Love that encourages us to act for the betterment of the interdependent web of all.
Love is an action, says the Reverend Ali Casey Bell, and he means it. Is it a perfect action? Is it the only right action? Will it fix everything that's broken? No, love doesn't show up that way. Chaplains know that. Reverend Ali knows that love does not show up in perfection, but in presence. And love is an action that is reciprocated indefinitely and without ending. Because we are imperfect and mortal, but our love is forever. That great-great-grandmother who held me once, the one I don't remember, save for the light-soaked sepia photo, I feel the love from her arthritic hands on my back. Even now, when I conjure that image, it is the same love that flows through my imperfect hands when I reach out with wonder and presence, without ending. Abraham Joshua Heschel, whose love, whose wonder, and whose presence, whose faith and history drew him to the work of the civil rights struggle with Reverend Dr. King. Heschel committed to King and to civil rights because that work for liberation was grounded in what he understood as the Hebrew scriptures that traced the exodus from Egypt, drawing attention all the while to the imperfection of the liberator, to the fear and the trembling of Moses, and to the trepidatious backsliding of the Israelites. Heschel committed to the work of liberation, knowing that no step, no action, none was perfect, but that every action on the side of liberation, every act of presence was itself a prayer, a brush with the holy, and love incarnate. I draw closest to Heschel's theology when I remember his testimony about our ego. He laughs at the way we mere humans think that we are the ones seeking the holy, but all the while it is the holy that is seeking us, that is waiting for us, present to us, imperfect us, vow-breaking, mess-making us. And all we need to do is, thank you, Heschel, all we need to do is allow ourselves to be found. My colleague was found by a pumpkin. Found by a pumpkin at one of the most powerful protest marches I've ever been on. We were rounding the streets of Edgewood, New Jersey, days after an unlawful, unjust, injurious arrest of Black Lives Matter leaders. We'd been marching to re-hallow the streets, to assert that no one would turn those leaders round. And my colleague was stopped by a person who presented her with a pumpkin. This is miles into the walk, and there was at least a mile to go, and pumpkins, they're heavy. But this pumpkin said, "Black Lives Matter," painted by a child's hand. It was the most improbable, imperfect gift. And that pumpkin was love overflowing. It was everything that you don't want to carry. But it was love's presence incarnate. We had been found by the holy, found by a pumpkin, imperfect offering, waiting for us, our imperfect selves, love without ending.
But what if we only had 30 days to love or lament or rebuild? What if we only had 30 days to love the world into the place that we know it could be? Now that seems like a tall order. It seems a bit overwhelming to consider even. In our Time for All Ages, we talked about how loving can be something that starts small and grows bigger. We talked about how loving is something that might even start at home. We talked about how loving is something we must do as humans. And that feels about right to me. And I don't know about you, but after recently moving to a new city, I can feel that in my bones. But how do I even begin to connect to places to make a difference? I don't know. You see, I often get caught up in my own stuff of looking too uninformed, or even worse, being too needy. I often feel really excited about finding a connection in my local community and finding a way to get back into community, or finding a way to make the ache stop through action. You know the ache, right? That feeling when you read, listen, watch the news, and you are just immersed in the vastness of all that is unjust, all that is wrong, all that needs people to care, people who desire to bring forth change and to create change. Yet there often seems to not be enough resources, people, not enough care, not enough love. That pernicious cynicism can creep in and act as an immobilizer to my very real desire to act. Has that happened to you? In All About Love by Bell Hooks, she speaks of this cynicism as the great mask of the disappointed and betrayed heart. And when I read that, wow, it hit me so hard. Because boy, friends, I can feel that. And if we know anything, we know that as a country, we have all been betrayed by democracy, by the way we were founded as a country, by the way this country was set up at all. We know, for honest and for true, we have yet to have an election where all the people who should have had the right to vote have been able to cast a ballot to vote. We know that some voting districts are rigged to make sure that the right people win. We know this already. Yet we also know that in order to move our country to a place where there is a hope for fairness in our democratic process, we must act together. We have to move beyond our discomfort and connect. And now is the time to act. So, whether your aim is to reform the system, or whether your aim is to tear it down and start it over, there is a place for you in this cacophony of loving witness. The decision to side with justice in all of its forms is loving and holy. The decision to side with justice in all of its forms is loving and holy. We have to. And Bell Hooks invites us, she says, to begin by always thinking of love as an action rather than a feeling, she explains, is one way in which anyone using the word in this manner can automatically assume accountability and responsibility. Imagine an accountable and responsible way of loving. We are often, she continues to say, taught we have no control over our feelings, yet most of us accept that we choose our actions, that, she says, intention and will inform what we do. We also accept that our actions have consequences. And she's right. So, with that framework in mind, if we only had 30 days to love, we would have just enough time to make a real connection, just enough time to act, just enough time to look too eager, to be too cynical, to get disappointed, and to remember that our actions have consequences and we are accountable for them.
Love is an action. And as our dear departed Thich Nhat Hanh has shared, my actions are my only true belongings. Imagine that you only have 30 days to love. 30 days to act your love. That is not enough time to get it perfect. Barely enough time, even to attempt to get it right. And aren't those some of the most treacherous stumbling blocks that befall us, Unitarian Universalists, that befall me so incredibly? That seeking after perfection, that craving after getting it right, the right words, the best action, rather than getting active imperfectly because there is no other way than imperfectly when we are human. 30 days to love is plenty of time to let go of those impossibilities of perfect and always just right, and to let love find you. Plenty of time to be present to those who are aching, to scrawl your love on a pumpkin, to defend what you mean when you utter the prayer democracy. Plenty of time to offer your imperfect self for love's unfolding. Plenty of time to let the holy find you in your imperfection, in the work and in the action. Amen.
Dearest beloveds, I close as we began by inviting you to consider living as if you only had 30 days to love your life. 30 days to love this world of people, to love this earth. I invite you to love as the belated bell hooks suggested, with a knowing that, quote, love is really more of an interactive process. It's about what we do, not just what we feel. Love is a verb, not a noun. Live on the side of love.
Haven't we been blessed today by this wonderful service? Well, I want to invite you for a time of celebration as we create the beloved community, loving one another, love in action. Why don't you come and go to that land? What land? The land of freedom, the land of hope, the land of peace, a land where there's love and unity, a land that flows with milk and honey. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. This song, in the context of which it was produced, spoke of that land, a place where racism and sexism and all the isms that seem to divide and separate us were no longer existed. We walk together in the spirit of love and of unity, where one and one we continue to show God's love to each other, hand in hand, walking together. Come on. It's an open invitation. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. Well, this song can be found at 10:18 and Singing the Journey. Why don't you celebrate with me? Come and go with me to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where I'm bound. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land. Come and go to that land where justice in that land where I'm bound. Well, and there'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Oh, there'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Hallelujah.
We are now behind the scenes. It is so good to be with you, Reverend Ali. I have missed you like crazy.
I've missed you so much. I miss being with you all at staff meetings and planning worship. I miss parish ministry. I miss UUCM.
And you left a whole big space that needed to be filled by a whole lot of love. There are a lot of people missing you.
I miss all of them too, so much.
And this was a service that we put together on love together. We got to do this worship thing together again, which is wonderful.
It really was. I think that this service on love, you're one of the first people I thought of, because I believe that pretty much every one of your services, in some ways, one of your homilies and sermons, in some ways speaks to love. Even your most prophetic ones, there's love somewhere in there if you're paying attention. So when I thought about 30 Days of Love, I'm like, oh, I know someone who preaches love every Sunday. And that's why I called you.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I'm glad you called, because working with you taught me a whole lot about love, about the way that you can develop love in that intern supervisor relationship, and how that goes far beyond just that relationship. It expands out into the staff team and the congregation.
Yeah, that relationship was really important in formulating just the way that I, of course, developed as a minister, but also in my development in all of my other relationships too, in my personal relationships and my relationships with my children, learning where you work, and also learning how to love multiple people all at the same time in deep, passionate ways is really difficult.
Yeah.
So difficult. So you all be nice to your intern ministers. They are learning a lot all at the same time, and also learning the boundaries of that, learning what's yours and what's not yours, and deciding where your ministry is and where the love of your ministry needs to flow to be the most effective is it's hard work, but it's the important work of ministry. It's really important.
I totally agree. And I also want to point out, before we close this conversation, how imperfect that process is.
Yes.
And just let everyone know that we did mean to wear the same outfits so that our two pieces would have fit very well with one another. And then somebody completely forgot. So what we got was a mishmash, but hopefully it was full of a lot of love.
But isn't that love, though? There's so many ways to do it. There's so many ways to do it. I think that something that was so beautiful about this service is that you could see, from the readings to the music to the opening, everything. You could just see so many different ways that you could be invited into finding a way to love others, love yourself, love your community, and love your way into acting. So hopefully, the service touched you in some way and inspired you to get out um, and act. And I mean out in the sense of out in the world in some way that is safe for you.
Yeah. May it be so.
May it be so.
Well, that was different. And it was wonderful to share that with all of you here in this space and beyond. May we live always as if we only have 30 days to love. And may our hearts be opened wide with the promise of those 30 days and loving boldly. I want to invite you into a space for reflection. And then I want to invite us to share with one another. So our reflection is, what if you only had 30 days to love? What would you do with those 30 days? What if you only had 30 days to love? What would you do with those 30 days? And we're going to share our closing hymn. We're going to share this here first as we reflect, and then I'm going to invite you to share with one another. And please, those of us joining virtually, please enter your reflections into the chat, and I'll be able to share them with the community here. Our closing hymn is We'll Build a Land. I welcome you to rise in body or spirit. you so much to Charles and to Glenn and to Marcus for that beautiful song. I welcome you to speak to somebody near you. What if you only had 30 days to love? What would you do with those 30 days? I invite you into that space of conversation. So as we are concluding, I just want to quickly share with you one of the folks on our virtual stream, Adrian DeVore, shared, "One thing I would do is to love everyone that I truly care about and who left a significant impact in my life." And with that, we conclude. May it be so. Amen. Continue your conversations. It is good to be with you in this community of love.